All hail Harrison Barnes. The veteran forward leads the Sacramento Kings to an opening night dominant victory over the Utah Jazz, and I'm breaking it all down from the Delta Center in Salt Lake City right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and I'm here in Salt Lake City. I got to witness firsthand the Sacramento Kings and their domination tonight in their 130-114 victory over the Utah Jazz. An incredible experience for me. I'll get into that at the end of the podcast because I want to talk about that a little bit. But there's no other way that we're starting this podcast other than talking about Harrison Barnes, because so often Barnes will provide solid to good games for the Kings, and it's not that it goes unnoticed, it's just we talk about other things before what HB does. Quite frankly, we take Harrison Barnes for granted. We do. And I know Harrison receives a lot of criticism, some of it over the top and unnecessary. A lot of it is necessary, pointing out his shortcomings, whether it's at times during the playoffs or at times where he disappears on the floor, doesn't really do anything other than score, and sometimes he doesn't even do that. Like, there are legitimate criticisms with Harrison Barnes' game, but when he has good games, if we're going to focus so much on the times that he struggles and clearly point that out every single time he has a rough night, we have to give him the praise that he deserves when he has one of these explosive type nights that he's capable of on any given night. Now, every single night he's not going to provide this for you, right? He's not going to score 33 points on 11 of 16 shooting, 5 of 7 from three-point range, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. He's not going to give that to you every single night. If he did, he'd be an all-star, and we'd talk about him as one of the best players in the league. He's not that. Right? So I'm not saying, hey, talk about Harrison Barnes like this from now on and recognize this game over all other games because this is who Harrison Barnes is. No, I'm not going that far. But who Harrison Barnes is a solid veteran, someone who is a clear and established starter in the NBA, even though there are some people that were debating that and discussing whether or not the Sacramento Kings should consider bringing him back this offseason. Well, at least for tonight, you should be very glad that they did, because Harrison exploded on tonight's game. 27 of his 33 points came in the first half alone. This man could not miss to start the game. In fact, his first miss came with just over 2 minutes remaining in the second quarter. And by that point, I think he had like 22 or 24 points. So it's not like he had only taken 2 or 3 shots beforehand. He was raining down threes left and right. He was hitting from everywhere on the floor. And the best part about it was that nothing was forced. Everything was in the flow of the offense, right? Harrison Barnes was not calling his own number. The Sacramento Kings weren't drawing a lot of plays up for him. They were feeding the hot hand for sure when he got going, but most of the three-pointers that he was hitting specifically was just in the flow of the Kings offense. Whether the Kings were swinging it around the horn or Harrison Barnes was standing on the wing or in the corner while Domantas Sabonis or DeAaron Fox or even Keegan Murray were drawing attention elsewhere, Harrison Barnes was just scoring because of the open looks that he was getting. And this can be said about so many different Kings players and will be said about so many different Kings players over the course of this season. But someone who is as hot as Harrison Barnes was tonight should not be getting the wide open looks that he was getting all night long. The reason why he's getting those looks is because the Kings have so many damn weapons on the offensive side of the ball that you can't guard everybody. And if you were to force all this attention on Harrison and say, don't leave Harrison, make sure he doesn't touch the ball, then DeAaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis or somebody else is going to kill you. But because the game plan for the Utah Jazz was clearly to try and play DeAaron physically and defensively in the first half, I thought they did a pretty good job on DeAaron Fox and a pretty solid job on Domantas Sabonis as well. The Kings still got theirs, but a lot of that was because Harrison Barnes just kept getting open threes. Keegan Murray kept getting open threes. Even the Kings bench players were coming in and getting open threes because of the amount of attention that ball handlers and other players were drawing elsewhere. That's what makes this Kings offense so difficult to stop. And let me tell you, if Harrison is going to have nights like this, where he's scoring in the high 20s, but especially if he's breaking 30s, the Kings better win that game every single time. Because if the Sacramento Kings waste a 30-point Harrison Barnes performance in a loss, that either means that defensively they couldn't stop anything. They couldn't stop a rock, or that means that everybody else had a bad shooting night, which I suppose is possible, but I'll put it this way. Every single time Harrison Barnes scores 30 or more points, the Sacramento Kings should win. If we have a stat by the end of the season, in fact, I'm going to hopefully remember this and revisit this. Let's say Harrison Barnes has 5 30-point games this season, which might be way too many. Maybe it's only 3. Who cares? Could be 5, could be 10, could be 3, could be 20. It's not going to be 20, but it could be. Every single one of those games, the Kings should be 20-0. Like, the Kings should be winning every single game that Harrison Barnes drops 30. And thankfully, they did that tonight. Now, you're going to hear from Harrison Barnes here in a second. I'm going to play for you his post-game press conference. But before that, let's just talk about the Sacramento Kings as a team, because newsflash, they're still good. In fact, they might be even better. Sacramento averaged 120 points per game last year, best offensive rating in regular season NBA history. They score 130 points in their first time back on the floor. Now, remember, they were just lucky last year, right? They were lucky to stay healthy. That's the only reason they made it as far as they did. They were just lucky, and there's no way they were going to replicate that. Like, look at the rest of the Western Conference. Like, right? Look at how fortunate the Sacramento Kings were in these areas. This offense that they provide, that can't be sustainable. Teams are going to figure them out. The Golden State Warriors figured them out in the best-of-7 series, and now everybody's going to see that film and know how to stop the Sacramento Kings, or at the very least, slow them down. Does that sound familiar? That's basically what so many experts were saying and writing about the Sacramento Kings all offseason long. But when they return to the floor, when they return to action, 130 points, 19 three-pointers. Let's see, 17 of 20 from the free throw line, 29 assists to only 11 turnovers. This Kings offense is damn good, and there's nothing you can do or say to undermine it, unless you're just not watching the Kings, which, quite frankly, we know a lot of these pundits writing about the Kings weren't actually watching them until the playoff series. They have not truly seen how good this Kings offense is and how consistently good it was. And if you're saying, hey, Matt, slow down, it's just one game, like they could still regress this season, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going to slow down. It is just one game. After a whole season of context last year that they chose to brush under the rug or ignore just because it didn't matter to them. It didn't fit their narrative. They're so used to the Sacramento Kings not being good that surely their offense had to be a fluke, or surely it was because of their injury luck, or Domantas Sabonis isn't nearly as good and didn't deserve to be on the All-NBA team. Whatever excuse they could come up with, whatever low-hanging fruit they could try and grab and latch onto this offseason, they did. Meanwhile, when the Sacramento Kings are actually playing basketball, they're dominating on the offensive side of the ball like they did tonight. The Kings had 100 points with 51 seconds remaining in the third quarter. This team is ridiculous on the offensive end of the ball. And check this out. They had 72 points at halftime, right? DeAaron Fox only had 6 of them. So it's not Hall of Fame superstar, megastar DeAaron Fox who's dropping 40 a night to drag the Kings to these ridiculous score lines. This Kings team is so unbelievably loaded with weapons and guys that can go off at any given moment that Fox can coast if he wants to. And here's the thing. Fox was not coasting in this game. Fox was not taking it easy in the first half. Fox was attacking. Like I said, I thought the Utah Jazz were playing good, solid physical defense on Fox. Clearly, it was their game plan to collapse on him every time he came into the paint. So what did the Sacramento Kings do? They adapted. They found the open shooters from three-point range, and they rained 19 threes down on the Utah Jazz head to where they had no chance to get back into this game, even if they were going to try to slow De'Aaron Fox down. All right, let's get back to Harrison Barnes. I want you to hear from HB after his big night here tonight. We spoke to him in the press conference room, and you're going to hear. The first question I ask HB is about his big night and the fact that he didn't miss until the second quarter. What does HB do? He doesn't talk about himself at all. He immediately deflects and starts talking about his team. The guy who has every right to pump out his chest and say, yeah, I see all you talking mess online. I see people saying like I'm trash in the playoffs and the Golden State Warriors got rid of me and all this negative stuff that's written about me and I'm not a good basketball player and I'm not a starting caliber player. I shouldn't have been paid what the Sacramento Kings paid me. He had every opportunity to pump out his chest and talk his talk. But what does he do? On a night where he took center stage and was the star, he makes it about his team. Take a listen.
HB, it took quite a while for you to miss your first shot. Was there just a feeling or just in the rhythm?
No, I think for us, our group, it was important for us to just start the right way. I think we got to a hot start, collectively, the ball's moving and just try to capitalize on that.
The three new guys, Duarte, I think had 9, McGee and Sasha both with 8, came in, made a good impact there in the first half. To see the new faces come in and make that kind of impact right away, what does that do for the returners?
I mean, I've said it last year. I said it during media day. I mean, I think the beauty of our team is that you can always have guys step up. You know, Trey doesn't play, Sasha comes in and contributes a lot. You know, Duarte coming in, McGee coming in. I think everybody on our team is gonna have nights, and I think seeing those guys come in, especially kind of the first time being together to get that first win, get that first game underneath your belt, I think was big.
Mike's challenge all preseason has been physicality on the defensive end. How do you guys feel you did tonight in that end?
We definitely made some strides. You know, I thought there's a few little lapses there in the second half, you know, just with rebounding and things like that. We could have been better, but I think, you know, overall trying to toe that line between being physical but not just fouling, I thought we improved on that.
HB preseason, you know, didn't shoot the ball the way you're accustomed to. Any concern, or, you know, you're just such kind of a crafty veteran at this point? Like, did you just know that, you know, the time would come and that would be there for you?
It was funny. Slauson was talking one time before a game. He said, you know, I've never been 0-3 before in the preseason. And I said, Slauson, if you want to play in this league a long time, you probably won't remember your preseason records and stats. You know, it's all a process. You want to just continue to get better, and things will materialize, and you'll see patterns over 82 games. So, you know, I think the biggest thing for us is we were just trying to establish chemistry and just build in the right direction in the preseason. Obviously, you know, you look at wins and losses, or shooting percentages, things like that. You know, you can get caught up in things that don't really matter, right? You know, right now it's about us being locked in, being together on a string, and getting wins.
Is there a reason you were the one getting fed so much? Was it just the hot hand, or was there something like matchup-wise you guys kind of targeted?
No, I think it was just playing fast and ball movement. I think with their zone and how they were matching up. Obviously, Domas was, you know, attracting a lot of attention towards the middle. So, you know, for us on the perimeter, it was freeing us up a lot.
Any comment on Malik's poster from Fox there in the I think it's third quarter?
That was ridiculous. I mean, we were talking. I didn't think he was going to dunk it. Fox was saying he was thinking about throwing off the glass. You know, it was all these things that were going on. But Malik's had some good posters, you know, in the Sacramento Kings uniform, and that was probably his best one.
Yeah, I was going to say Keegan showed a bit of his 3-level scoring tonight. Just what have you seen in his growth and being ready to kind of step into that spot?
I mean, Keegan scored at 3 levels in college, man. I mean, he's always had that. I mean, it's nothing new for those of us who are around him. But I think just the work that he put in this summer, his continued just growth in his confidence in his game and his ability to show what he can do. Obviously, he can do a lot more than what's probably seen in games. But I think him just continuing to get better and show that, I think, is going to just help take our team to that level that we want to be at.
Harrison, a couple of reports tonight about DeAaron signing a signature shoe deal. Just what's it been like for you to watch him grow into the player that he is now, and to see kind of these accolades and this kind of recognition starting to come to him?
About time. I mean, I never got the swipe of ones when they came out in the off-court shoe. I'm still feeling some type of way about that, but you know, I think just the player that he is off the court, but also just who he is as a person. You know, I think it's warranted, it's deserved, it's a great, you know, accomplishment for him. Only so many guys have signature shoes in this league, and I think it just shows how much work that he's put in on his game. You know, I mean, those type of things don't happen unless you continuing to get better every single year, continuing to get better every single offseason, and you know, I'm just proud of him.
Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and it's just you against the numbers. You're not battling against thousands of other players, including sharks and the pros. You either pick more or less than 2 to 6 players and their PrizePicks projections for that given game or that given night. You get them right, you can win up to 25 times your money. And check it out, speaking of the money, when you win, they offer quick withdrawals, incredibly easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. So you deposit $100, you get $100 more right there and then. It's so much fun. Give PrizePicks a try. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Can we talk about the new Kings for a second? Of course we can, Matt. It's your podcast. You can talk about whatever you want. You're literally by yourself on an NBA floor talking to a camera. But I really want to talk about JaVale McGee, Sasha Vezenkov, and Chris Duarte. 3 new Sacramento Kings who came in and made immediate impacts off of the bench. It was great to see. Let's start with Sasha Vezenkov. 8 points, 3 of 6 shooting from the field, 2 of 5 from three-point range. Also had 2 rebounds and 2 steals. He came into the game within a minute. It was less than a minute. He gets an opportunity on a corner 3, no hesitation, drains it. Like, Sasha came in, immediately made that impact on the offensive end of the ball that like we were expecting. And then defensively, I don't know if he was hiding this all preseason, but defensively, he looked really, really good. At one point, Colin Sexton was attacking him, and we know how explosive and quick and dynamic Colin Sexton is. Sasha Vezenkov was able to stay in front of him, move his feet, and force Sexton. I can't remember if Sexton passed or put up a really tough shot. Either way, great defense by Vezenkov. And then a few minutes later, it was Chris Dunn that was attacking Sasha. Once again, he used his feet to stay in front of Chris Dunn, cut him off from attacking the basket, and then ended up poking the ball away for one of his 2 steals on the night. If that's the kind of defense that Sasha Vezenkov can play on a nightly basis, we're not going to be talking about him as a defensive liability for longer than we did during the preseason. That's it. Like, if that's what he can provide you, it's good enough. Now, he wasn't amazing. He wasn't excellent on the defensive end of the floor, but he did his job. He wasn't a liability by any means, and he more than justified being on the floor to provide you that offensive boost that you know that he can give you. He hit a pair of threes, also had a putback tip-in off of an offensive rebound. Was very happy with what I saw from Sasha in this game, and truth be told, I was really happy with the defensive effort, period, from the Sacramento Kings. They held the Utah Jazz to 24 points, I believe, in the first quarter. They were playing physical defense, battling over screens, using their bodies and using their feet to cut off attacking the basket. It was what Mike Brown wanted. He didn't want the Kings to chase the ball. He wanted them to cut off the ball, be physical, bump, make the Utah Jazz feel you on the defensive end of the floor. And here are the Kings holding the Jazz to under 30 points in 3 out of 4 quarters. If the Kings could hold teams to under 30 points in 3 out of 4 quarters consistently this season, they're one of the best teams in the NBA, period, because we know how good their offense is. All right, let's talk about JaVale McGee. 8 points, 4 of 4 shooting from the field. Only had 1 rebound, though. We'll get to that in a second. JaVale McGee had an amazing alley-oop that he caught way above the rim from Malik Monk. And yes, Malik had an amazing dunk. We'll get to that in a little bit. I know you're probably surprised I haven't talked about it yet. But McGee, he actually was the guy that got the Kings to that 100-point mark with a running hook shot that he hit here on this side of the floor to put the Kings at the century mark late in the third quarter. JaVale looked good. He looked solid. He was an impactful player, and he filled those minutes fine when Domantas Sabonis was out of the game. The 1 rebound, though, I'm going to focus more on the team rebounding and less on JaVale getting just 1 rebound, but for a 7-footer, he needs to be grabbing more boards than that. But that was the one area of this game that was the biggest negative, I guess, for the Sacramento Kings. They were out-rebounded by the Utah Jazz tonight, 54-45. -9, it's not terrible, but it's not good, of course, especially with the Kings trying to emphasize better rebounding. And the biggest concern is that the Utah Jazz had 16 offensive rebounds tonight. Now, it didn't end up really killing you because of what you were able to do on the offensive end of the court. So it didn't end up hurting the Sacramento Kings that bad. But offensive rebounding was a big struggle for the Kings in the playoffs. And if they're that poor with their offensive rebounding on Friday night against the Golden State Warriors, that could end up being the difference between them winning the game or losing the game. So that's something that to be aware of, and I'm sure Mike Brown and the team will break that down in film sessions tomorrow and going into Friday. But that's really the only negative to point out. Chris Duarte came in, instant impact, 9 points, 3 of 5 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range, a couple of rebounds. Like, this is exactly what you want out of your depth. Guys that are just going to come in and score, fit offensively, space the floor, fill their roles, embrace their roles. In fact, I was planning on playing for you a clip, an amazing clip from Mike Brown before the game started in his pregame press conference. Mike went into detail, answering a question from Katie Christensen, went into a really good detail about assigning players roles and how he has the team all get together at the end of a practice or during a practice and has all of the players read out the goals that not just have been given, or rather the roles that are not just given to them, that they sit down with the coaching staff and with the front office and identify themselves. So they all sit down individually with each player, identify their roles, then they come together and the players share those roles and what their responsibilities are to the team so that everybody is aware of it and everybody can hold that person accountable. And there's no like hidden agendas or anything like that. Like everybody knows it's all out there, what's expected of each player and what their role is to help the Sacramento Kings win. That's brilliant coaching from Mike Brown. I was going to have him tell you all that and hear it directly from him, but you might be aware of the post-game press conference that Mike Brown had, refusing to talk about basketball because of the tragic mass shooting that happened tonight in Maine. We'll get to that because I'm going to play that press conference for you in full here a little bit later on in the podcast. Before we get to that, though, I got to mention Domantas Sabonis as well. 22 points tonight, 8 of 14 from the field, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. That's just Domas doing what he does. It's doing what he does. He's more than a fine player. He's more than fine. He's great. He's excellent. He's providing everything that the Sacramento Kings could ask of him. Maybe it could be a little better in certain areas from time to time. I'm not saying he's a perfect player, but every single team, I don't know why the narrative was so ridiculous about Domantas Sabonis not being the right fit and you can't win with Sabonis, all based off of one playoff series that he didn't play that bad in. He didn't play good in, but he didn't play that bad in. But people took this crap and ran with it to suggest and create this narrative that's been picked up around the league, because I had Jazz fans behind me that were yelling how overrated and how much Domantas Sabonis sucked. Meanwhile, he's putting up this incredible stat line, putting another double-double on your ass and helping the Sacramento Kings win. The Utah Jazz are a physical team on the inside. They didn't stop him. They couldn't stop anybody. Lauri Markkanen ended up having 19 points. It was the quietest 19 points I've ever seen. Walker Kessler did absolutely nothing in this game tonight. Domas was fantastic, and this is what Domas is, a double-double machine, an all-NBA caliber center who is going to help the Sacramento Kings team win. I don't understand why people think that Sabonis can't help this team get to a championship. It's dumb. He's one of the top centers in the league, and he's not your number one option. If he was your number one option, maybe you have concerns. But DeAaron Fox is that number one option. Keegan Murray is capable of being number two from time to time. And then you have guys like Harrison Barnes or Kevin Huerter or Malik Monk, or go down the freaking list that explode at any given time. Sabonis scored 22 points tonight. He didn't have to score that much for the Kings to win. He could have scored 16 and Sacramento would have been just fine. Domas is great. He's great. And I'm tired of hearing this nonsense about him, because every time he's on the floor and he's consistently making a positive presence for the Sacramento Kings. He made a great impact last season. And here are the Utah Jazz that have all the tape in the world about how the Golden State Warriors were able to slow him down in the playoffs. And believe me, they tried to back off him from time to time, and he dominated. He dominated. And I think he's going to look just fine, if not more than fine, on Friday against the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's talk about the Malik Monk's poster. Right, DeAaron Fox gets a steal right here. I'm standing in the spot where DeAaron gets the steal. He's being trailed by Chris Dunn, dumps off the pass to Malik Monk, who throws it down. This vicious tomahawk heard around the world, already a nominee for Dunk of the Year, and we're in Game 1 of the season. Now, what people aren't talking about that I noticed and I pointed out, after he dunked that, he got in the face of Chris Dunn a little bit. He flexed, so maybe he should have gotten a taunting call or a technical foul for that or whatever. But then Chris Dunn, full two hands, shoves him in the chest. Now, Malik didn't do anything about it. Dunn didn't end up doing anything about it. In the end, it didn't really matter. The only reason I bring it up is because a minute and some change later, DeAaron Fox got issued a technical foul for talking with the refs after being frustrated about something. So DeAaron gets a technical, but Chris Dunn, who pushes Malik Monk in the chest, doesn't get a technical. Interesting. Either way, that dunk is amazing. And it was just a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to see. Even the Jazz fans in the arena were like, okay, that was sick, and we're going to enjoy that. So an awesome dunk from Malik Monk, and an awesome moment here tonight inside the Delta Center. I haven't even talked about DeAaron Fox and Keegan Murray that much, and I don't really have time to. I'll just say, like, Fox had 18 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. He was all over the stat column. He was fine in the first half. Even though he didn't score that much, he still was really solid. Second half, he really turned it on, but a really solid performance from him in a game where the Kings didn't need him to be all-star, superstar Fox, but he still was really good. And then you have Keegan Murray, 15 points, 8 rebounds, which you love to see, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He had a play at one point where he put the ball on the floor, attacked the defense, ended up drawing the drawing the foul and completing the and one and going to the line. Keegan Murray's ready for that next step as a go-to scorer. And Mike Brown even said pregame that there's really no shot that's a bad shot for Keegan. Like, they're giving him the green light to go and get his and score however he can and however he wants to. But speaking of Mike Brown, let's play this. So after the win, Mike Brown comes into the press conference room, and immediately you can tell something's up. And I'm not going to say anything more. Just take a listen to Mike, a very emotional Mike Brown, a passionate Mike Brown, talking about the tragic shooting tonight with, I believe, 22 killed in Maine.
The first thing I like to say is I don't know everything that's going on, but I'm not that smart, but I know we as a country got to do something. I'm walking over here and somebody says there was a mass shooting in Maine with 22 dead at a grocery store. At a freaking grocery store, man. If that doesn't touch anybody, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. That is absolutely disgusting, and it's sad. And it's sad that we sit here and watch this happen time after time after time after time, and nobody does anything about it. It's a sad day. It's a sad day. It's a sad day for our country. It's a sad day in this world. And until we decide to do something about it, the powers that be, this is going to keep happening. And our kids aren't going to be able to enjoy what the United States is about because we don't know how to fix a problem that's right in front of us. Sad. I feel for the families. I don't know what else to say.
Mike, no easy way to transition out of that, but from an NBA standpoint, how do you feel the league does, or how much do you appreciate, I guess, the league and their platform and the work that they do to send messages and try and prevent things like this or do what needs to be done, I guess?
You know, you commend Adam Silva and the players that lead this league, you know, Chris Paul, LeBron James, to name a few, that stand up and use their platform the right way. And you hope that we continue. Obviously, it hasn't done much, because for something like that to happen tonight, that's just sick. It's just sick. I don't know what else to say. It's absolutely sick.
Mike, well said, sir. I think we all share that view. If I can I ask you a basketball question?
I don't even want to talk basketball. I'm sorry. We played a game. It was fun. Well, obviously we won, but I mean, if we can't do anything to fix this, it's over. It's over. It's over for our country for this to happen time after time. Talk tomorrow.
It's hard to transition out of that back to basketball, so I'm not going to talk about basketball anymore, and I don't blame Mike Brown for not wanting to talk basketball at all tonight after hearing that news. I thought that was a really powerful, important press conference, and I'm glad he just focused on that and didn't talk basketball. There's plenty of time left to talk about basketball, so for him to have to take that time to say what he said, I give him full credit for that and totally respect him for that. And the best way I'm going to transition out of that into wrapping up this podcast is just saying this. I am unbelievably grateful. Like to think about, I am a kid who grew up in Sacramento, a diehard fan of the Kings. I'm a kid who turned his love of a team and love of a game into a career. And because of the support of all of you, because of the Locked On Podcast Network giving me this opportunity and this platform, because of ABC 10 taking a chance on me with no TV experience after just primarily working in radio to give me an opportunity as a sports guy, and then have enough faith in me to send me to like Las Vegas Summer League during Keegan Murray's rookie year, and then to send me here to to Utah for the Sacramento Kings season opener, and to go to Utah last year for All-Star Weekend. Like, I'm just so unbelievably blessed and thankful, and I'm just in awe looking around this empty arena, thinking about what I get to do. And I just want you to know how thankful I am and how big of a part that you played in that. And I get the opportunity to meet Kings fans. I got to meet a couple of Kings fans and speak with some Kings fans. Eli and Austin, I got to spend some time with them outside before the game. Those guys were amazing. I think Austin said something that was really, really cool, and I ended up using it on our ABC 10 broadcast. He goes, the Utah Jazz motto is take note. Well, I hope they take note of the beam tonight. I was like, oh, I'm going to steal that. That was too clean, Austin. I wish I had thought of that. But I mean, it's people like those two. It's people like everybody that I see at the Golden One Center, everybody that I've gotten to talk to around the world that this podcast has connected me to. I'm just so grateful, so thankful, and I couldn't have dreamed of being in this position. I'm so excited to see where I go next. Well, I know where I'm going next. I'm going back to Sacramento. I'm hopping on a plane. It's like almost 1 o'clock in the morning here. I'm hopping on a plane in like 9 hours. I'm heading back to Sacramento because we got to get ready for Kings and Warriors. And it's going to be big. It's going to be exciting. In fact, I did an interview with Keegan Murray and then asked DeAaron Fox a couple questions about the home opener. I'm going to have that audio and that video for you available on tomorrow's Locked On Kings podcast. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And then we got Kings, Warriors inside the Golden One Center. I, of course, will be there. If you're going to be there, hit me up. Let me know. I'm at the top of section 105. I'll be walking around. Let me know. Would love to see you. Say hi to you. Thank you in person and chat with you then. Until then, my name is Matt George. Thank you so much as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.